Hello, happy hackers. Welcome to Happy Hackers. So this channel is basically a channel we want to set up to basically do tutorials on HackerRank challenges, algo challenges specifically, and basically it's dedicated to the website HackerRank. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. The website's hackerrank.com. Now this is my dashboard. As you can see, I'm logged in as Happy Hackers here. So when we decided we wanted to start up a channel and basically do these algo challenges online for video content such as YouTube, we kind of wanted to focus just on the more challenging algos. But then we decided against that because the reality is that if we wanted to have a complete series, it would probably be best to start off from the very beginning, even the most simplest of challenges. So just the video today, it's probably going to be a bit of an easy one for 99.99% of programmers. But for the sake of completion, we decided that it would be a good introduction. And it'd be great to get our first video on the channel. So yeah, thanks for joining us. So basically, like I said, introduction to HackerRank. It's basically hackerrank.com. Very easy to sign up. Yeah, if you aren't on HackerRank, we suggest that you are. It's a great way to learn. So just taking around it, basically, there's a whole bunch of skills and disciplines you can focus on. So as you can see, there's basically algorithms, C, Python. I personally am going to focus on the algos. Those are probably the most interesting, most challenging. And the nice thing about it is it isn't language specific. I personally like to program in Python, so my tutorials will be in Python because it's just an easier readable language. But if you are a C or oriented or Java developer, or whatever the case is, Ruby even, yeah, feel free to have a go at it. We're just going to discuss the logic of building these algos. But yeah, definitely something worth looking at. And then there's great tutorials as well, also like course-based work, where there's 10 days of statistics, 10 days of learning JavaScript, basically anything you want to learn. And basically, they set up all prerequisites of different questions that you challenge yourself, and obviously starts very easy and gets more and more complicated. So yeah, that's basically HackerRank in a nutshell. Very easy. Also very, very cool, worth mentioning, is that they've got a whole bunch of certifications. It's not like an independent certification. It's obviously just a HackerRank certificate, but something pretty cool to stick on your CV, resume, and stick on your social media or your GitHub profile or your LinkedIn profile if you have those. So not a bad thing to do. On my personal account, not the Happy HackerRank account, I have a whole bunch of certifications done. It's really cool. And you'll see as the course goes along, you get certain points for achieving or completing certain questions, and that will take you up the scales from a bronze level to a gold medal to a 5-star gold type of thing. But the thing that's really cool for me, that I quite enjoy, is the leaderboard. So as you basically complete more and more questions, you'll get more points, and you'll see your ranking go up and up and up and up. So for example, I focus on algos practices. Right now I don't have any points, but you'll see we're ranked basically 4.1 millionth in the world. And obviously I'm South African based. So if you basically want to see where you rank in the world, and as you do more questions, you'll see your rank going high, which is very, very cool, very motivating. Also, you can compare yourselves against your school or your company within your country. So if basically I want to see where I rank just in South Africa specifically, you'll see that I'm basically 15,000th in South Africa, which is quite a little bit sad that you're only 4 million in the world, but 15,000 in South Africa. But nevertheless, pretty cool. Yeah, and you're competing internationally, so you can see a lot of guys around the world, from Asia to Europe to America. Some Asian again, Canada, Georgia, I think. Yeah. So yeah, definitely something worth doing, and that for me is probably the most motivating. And if you're a developer looking for jobs, they have some jobs. Now, something you probably should know is that HackerRank is obviously designed as obviously a learning tool, but a lot of companies use HackerRank as sort of a technical skills interview stage. I know that the company that I work for currently, they basically use HackerRank as assessments. And so before I kind of got the job, they gave me a 3-hour test where I basically had to answer a couple of HackerRank questions. Yeah, and it's great to practice. So yeah, so that's, I think, basically a rundown of what HackerRank is. If you haven't joined, I really recommend joining. And by the virtue of the fact that you're probably watching this video, you have joined. So let's get to it. Let's go through a question. We're going to do the most easy of them. So we'll start with algorithms. It's probably the typical hello world, or solve me first. So it's basically solve me first. And yeah, it's an easy challenge to help you start coding in your favorite languages. Like I said, my language is Python. I don't know, people have their opinions about Python, and some people feel it's more technical. Some people feel it's a beginner's language. I don't know. I've just started in Python and I've just fallen in love with it, and I haven't come back. Okay, so this is the first challenge, and this is what a typical challenge will look like. You'll see multiple tabs. So the first one is the problem tab, which basically explains the problem. Basically, it tells you what the challenge is, what the constraints are, a sample of input, a sample of output, and then the explanation of how they get to the output. Okay, I'm not going to do the doc mode. And then basically there's a little like an IDE built in where you would actually code and try and get your answer. Now you'll see they have all different languages. So this is by default for some reason Java 7, which is cool. I think a lot of developers do Java 7. I'm going to flip over to Python 3 specifically, and you'll see automatically it will change the way it looks, and then you basically code your own language. So if you are a C# developer or a Java developer or a Kotlin or whatever you are, they have almost everything here. So like there is no shortage of languages that they focus on. Like I said, I'm going to focus on Python. Then other tabs to look at is submissions. So basically they'll have basically any submissions you've made for it. So you'll see once we've done this, I'll take you through this. Then the leaderboard is leaderboard specifically for this question. So you'll see everyone that completes it has got 1 point, and everyone is ranked as first. And you can see basically 1.8 million people have answered this, I think. Ooh, yeah, well, 3.6 million people answered it, or have attempted it, have started it. And these guys, for some reason, haven't completed it, which is quite sad. But probably just felt interesting. And then obviously rebuilding solutions. We'll see later on that you can actually, if a problem becomes too challenging, you can actually reveal the solution, and then you unfortunately don't get the points that would be assigned to it. So this one would have 1 point assigned to it. Some of the more complex the more complex a question is, the more points assigned to it. So typically the first beginner levels questions are like 5, 10 points, and then it starts getting to like 20, 25, 30, 50 points for the really, really challenging ones. And then just discussions, basically, guys commenting on it. You'll see guys have their opinions. Unfortunately, a lot of guys will put the solution down, which is that's sad. Like, why put the solution and dispose it for everyone else? But it does get monitored, moderated, and removed. So don't do that. Don't be that person. And the editorial is locked, but the editorials basically would, in theory, explain to you how to answer the question from their side. I've not used the editorial. I haven't needed to. I'm the kind of guy that gets determined and will stick it out. So yeah, let's go for it. Let's have a crack at this. Max score, just what we're presenting, is 1 point, submitted by 3.7 people, 3.7 million people. As you saw, like 3.8 million people had attempted it. So a lot of people just open it and don't go. The author, and you can click on their details, and then the grading level, which is easy. I don't know if it's worth mentioning now, but there's 2 types of grading levels. So if I go into, sorry, just go back here. If you are looking for different challenges, there's also a whole bunch of subdomains. So like if you're looking for things on sorting or string related, or some warm-ups or bit manipulation, any type of testing specifically you want to get, it's available, so you can filter those out. But there are 2 difficult levels. So the difficulty level, which is easy, medium, hard, but then also the skills level. So if you're a beginner, you could start with intermediate, some easy, medium, hard. Once you're comfortable, then you can upgrade your skills. Obviously, you would need to do more theoretical learnings and things like that before you could go up these. But these are basically how hard you want to challenge yourself. So as a beginner, start on intermediate, start on easy, and you get more comfortable, you can push yourself to a hard level. And you'll see that they aren't impossible, which is good. You want something that is going to make you think, but also not to make you despondent. Okay, so back to the question. Simple question. So basically, can we complete the function that's solve me first? You'll see here's the subfunction solve me first with two variables, a and b, which basically sums two integers. One of the most easy questions. So in the example, a equals 7, b equals 3, and you're looking for an answer of 10. Okay, then they give you the function description. Complete the solve me function in the editor below. Okay, so we're going to go to this editor below, and basically have the function that defines solve me first has two parameters. The a, which is the first value, and b is the second value. And basically, we're looking for returns of an integer, the sum of a and b. Okay, constraints. So basically, what you'll find in later questions is they'll have a bunch of test cases, corner cases here, and they will run through all the inputs through your program and test it against their desired results. And if it matches, you pass the test. If not, you fail it. And you have the option to see what the desired result is, and you can then debug your code to see why you're not getting that result. Some of them will be locked. You'll see in future questions, some of them will be locked. You'll have to pay what they call hackaroos, I think, which you earn. So basically, if I complete this, I'll be rewarded hackaroos, which is like basically currency, and then I can basically unlock that. Most of the time, you don't need to, but sometimes you get some challenging questions where you just can't figure out why you can't hit the corner cases. You can open that up. It will then give you basically the inputs and outputs, and you can switch, copy and paste that into your IDE if necessary. Sometimes I do need to do that for the more challenging questions, and it takes a while to just set it up, because essentially what they're doing is they typically will give you the test cases in like a text file, and then you just need to just write basically the import statement here that basically reads the file and then basically runs it through function. We're not there yet, so don't stress about that just yet. But let's have a go at this one. So basically, the constraint is that a and b will never be less or than 1. So basically, it will never be 0 or a negative integer, and it will never be greater than 1,000. So pretty easy. In the sample input, which is a little different from the example, but anyway, a equals 2, b equals 3. If we add 2 and 3 together, we should get 5. So let's go for it. So it's pretty simple in Python. Python's pretty easy in the sense that the way you would write it in English is, or the way you would write it in the math test, is pretty much the way you would code in Python. So it's basically a plus b equals, I don't know, let's go sum. If we really want to do that, right? But it isn't that simple. Sometimes you just got to basically flip it around. So in Python, you go sum equals a plus b, which is kind of basically the same way you would do y equals mx plus c. You would start with your requested and then basically the sum. So it's kind of like maths. Just depends where in the world you're doing your maths. But yeah, that's basically it, right? Now, you'll see that the word sum here is highlighted in red because sum is what they call a keyword or reserved word. So actually, you can't actually create a variable, right? That is named sum. You got to basically find one that is unique. So we could actually do something like this: underscore sum equals that, but it seems to still give us issues. Give me a second. Equals sum, still an issue. So if I would just basically go s equals that, it would basically allow me to. But the question is that it says we need to return it. So we have basically the main function, which is calling it, and then we basically need to give the result back. So we could just basically call this. I mean, as good practice, you don't typically name a variable within. So if we had to just basically do this, everything above this line is your subfunction in the system code. Now, typically, we try not to replicate the name of variables here in your main function in the name here. It will kind of typically throw issues at you saying that that your variable within the function shadows, the word specifically shadows a variable name in basically in elsewhere, and it won't break your code, but it just makes things confusing for someone else that's reading your code. So that's good practice. We typically try not to rename or replicate names inside and outside our functions. But what a lot of guys will do is they'll take the same name. So in this case, res, which is obviously staying for result, and basically put underscore beginning to indicating that it's a different variable. Now, I'm not a fan of that in the sense because it doesn't do anything specifically other than to tell a user or reader this is actually a reserved variable that they shouldn't play with. They shouldn't basically use it or manipulate it other than inside that function. So yeah, I'd rather would just create something called result, which is basically a lot easier. And then we could just return result. Yeah. And that will basically send the result back to the main function. It then populates this variable here with the same answer, and then it can print the result. Now the result is what they're looking for. It will allow them to pass the test. Alternatively, what we could do, instead of writing two lines, we could take the shorthand and just go basically return A plus B. Which one you prefer is up to you. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference. It does the same objective. Some guys will want the more elegant line here. Some guys want you to break it down. I typically will try and break it down. So I would try and basically do the math up top, and then once all the math is done, then basically return what we're looking for. That's my style. But if you want to go straight for the kill, you're welcome to do that. Gives you less lines of code, but just makes it a little bit obfuscated for someone that's trying to read it. So basically, this is my suggested solution. Now that I want to test it or want to run it, I got to either run the code or submit it. Now, typically, I would run the code first. Basically, if there's any sort of bugs or anything like that, it will give you a response quicker and basically tell you, okay, cool, the issue. Where submit code will actually take a little bit longer, and they'll probably run more test cases. So typically, run code. If it passes, so basically we'll do the same time. So in this question, being the very first question, it probably does at the same time. But yeah, so basically we've got congratulations. You'll see there's two test cases, like I said, 2 and 3, which is per their sample here. And then basically expected output, and my output was basically 5, which matches the expected. And you can download it, which is cool if you're running. Ooh, sorry about that. Yeah, download it basically gives you a text file of what the sample, this is the results. And this we can download the inputs, which will look like this, 2 and 3. Now, this seems a bit silly in this context, but in some of the questions, you'll see that they'll have hundreds and thousands of input variables that you got to run through. And so it actually is important to download. And then here, basically, they've a little bit more challenging question, if you will, in air quotes. Basically, 100 plus 1,000 should give you 1,100. A little bit different from either the test case or the sample or the example. And yeah, just make sure that you haven't just hard coded, because some guys might actually go, okay, cool, I'm going to basically just return 5, which in theory, if I had to basically do that, if I ran my code, it would, so it's actually perhaps a good thing to deliberately fail. It would pass my first case because I'm sending back 5 and it matches, but I'm not doing anything mathematically correct. And then here you'll see wrong answer, and it warns you. So you get 1 out of 5. In terms of like points assignments, so because I've passed all of them, I'm going to get 1 point. But if I had to basically do this and leave it, I would basically be assigned, because I've passed 1 out of 2, I would be assigned essentially 50% of the available points, which means I'll get 0.5. But yeah, this is easy enough. So let's kill it off. Result. Let's do that, run code. There we go. And then, yeah, and then basically this one. So before we do, I just want to tell you that there is basically an option for you to actually create your own tests. So if you want to basically create 2 inputs that are different from every other input that they have, you can do that. So if I want to basically do 15, and let's say 14, it should give me 29. Let's run the code. It basically gives me 29, and basically I should know that that is correct. I'm happy, right? So we can also then take that out. Unfortunately, if you do that, it won't run against any of their test cases. Yeah, and you can upload the code as well. So you could take it to your own IDE, create it in let's say, in my case, it would be PyCharm, or if you Java, IntelliJ, or the cases, and then basically you can just throw it back up there, which sometimes could work. I haven't done it personally. I just literally just copy and paste. But yeah, so I've run the code one more time. Cool, pass all tests, and let's submit the code. Fetching result, cool, passed it. It should now basically offer me the option to go to the next challenge. There we go. It says you've earned 1 point. You are now 21 points from solving my 29 points away from my first start from the problem solving thing. So that's pretty cool. It kind of traction says you're 3% on the way, and it kind of gives you a little bit of incentive to keep going. Okay. Now, obviously, they're going to punt the certifications everywhere in their products, so they'll obviously sorry about that. They'll obviously offer this to you every now and then. I think when you're more comfortable, you're welcome to go for it. But for our point purposes, we're going to give it a skip, and we're going to end the show. We'll do the next challenge as a separate video, but I think for now, it was just basically a great introduction to HackerRank. Yeah, give you basically a lay of the land. Yeah, and that is the first problem solved. A simple one, but it can't just let you get used to it. And you're welcome to share it on Twitter or Facebook. I'm not going to do that. Actually, maybe I should. No, we won't do that now. We can do a random challenge or the next challenge. So these will be ordered from like basically a very easy to a random, which could in theory spit out a more difficult question. I'm not going to do that. My suggestion is we do the next challenge there. But yeah, we are going to end that for today. Yeah, and if you enjoyed this, give us a thumbs up. If you are keen on getting more videos as we do them, feel free to subscribe and get the notification bell. Yeah, and yeah, hope to see you soon. Happy hacking, guys. Enjoy.